Welcome back to Torah in 10, Parshas Vayetzeh. I'm Jody Burkell, and I'm so excited to be here with you again. What's the life-changing idea Rabbi Sacks of blessed memory teaches us this week? The deepest cries of our life can turn out to be the moments when we encounter the deepest truths and acquire our greatest strengths. Rabbi Sacks asks, what did Jacob, our forefather, add to the Jewish experience? What is it that we find in him that we don't find to the same degree in Abraham and Isaac? We are called Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Why is it his name, Jacob/Israel, that we carry in our identity? Is there something of him in our spiritual DNA? Who was Jacob? Rabbi Sacks says, Jacob was the man whose deepest spiritual encounters happened when he was on a journey, alone and afraid in the middle of the night, running from one danger to another. Here's where we are. The Torah tells us that upon the advice of his parents, Jacob leaves the land of Israel and travels toward the city of Haran in search of his life partner. Jacob is escaping from his brother Esav, about to meet Lavan, a man who will be a thorn in his side for many years. In next week's Parsha, we see Jacob running in the opposite direction, from Lavan to Esav, and the Torah tells us Jacob was very afraid. Yet, it is in these moments of fear and uncertainty that he has spiritual experiences that none of the other forefathers and even Moses had gone through. Even before I began learning Torah, I was vaguely familiar with the concept of Jacob's ladder. I didn't know its significance, but it seemed to reach across religious and non-religious lines. The question is why? What's so meaningful? In this Parsha, Jacob has a vision of a ladder stretching from earth to heaven with angels ascending and descending, and at the end of which he declares, surely God is in this place and I didn't know it. How awesome is this place? There is nothing other than the house of God, and this, the gate of heaven. This is a big deal in the history of faith and speaks so powerfully to us today, because we would normally assume that the great spiritual encounters happen in the desert or on a mountaintop or in an ashram, a monastery, a retreat, a place where our soul is at rest, our body calm, and our mind in a state of belief. But that's not Jacob, and that's not the only way we encounter God. Rabbi Sacks says that throughout Jewish history, our ancestors found God in dark and lonely places. And he says that sometimes it's when we feel most alone that we discover that we're not alone. We connect with God in the midst of fear and a sense of failure. That's the gift of Jacob/Israel, the man who found God in the heart of darkness. King David in Psalms speaks about this idea as well. In his most agitated Psalm 69, he speaks as if he's drowning. He says, "Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in the miry depths where there's no foothold." There's another famous Psalm 130 where we read, "Out of the depths I cry to you, Lord." Have you ever cried out in pain to God? Because I have. This is the legacy of Jacob, who discovered that you can find God, in Rabbi Sacks's words, not just when you're peacefully tending your sheep or joining in prayer with others at shul, but also when you're in danger, in a challenge, far from home, with danger in front of you and behind you. One of the most incredible things I've ever heard is from a survivor named Eva Newman. I watched her video of her story on aish.com. It's called Bobby's Story. I highly recommend you watch it. The most powerful line for me is when she said that someone asked her, "Where was God when you were in Auschwitz?" And she answers, "God was with me." That is the faith of Jacob, and we have it built into our spiritual DNA. We just have to access its incredible power. These two encounters, this week's and next week's, when Jacob wrestles with an angel, we discover how to best develop our spiritual potential and find more meaning in our lives. Sometimes we experience spirituality by climbing a ladder, rung by rung. Each day, week, month, year, we study and understand more and come a little closer to heaven as we learn to connect both body and soul to the creator of the world. That's faith as a ladder. This is one of the ideas shared with Baalei Tshuva as we grow in our Yiddishkeit. My teachers told me, it doesn't matter which rung you begin on. What matters most is that you're always going up. But as I learned more and I experienced life more, I realized that this is not exactly the full picture. I learned from Neely Cousins when she was here in Toronto a few years ago that she too was always teaching people that what matters most is that you're always going up, growing. It's true. But she said, there are times in our lives that we're not going up. God gives us a challenge, and perhaps during these times, we take a few steps back. Does that mean we're off the ladder, not growing? If God runs the world, which he does, then the challenges that he sends us, the ones that might stop us in our tracks, are also meant to help us grow, because growth doesn't just look one way. So what I've learned over the years is that as we climb the ladder of life, there will be times when we're going up, and there are times that we might take a few steps down. But what's most important is that even when we're taking a few steps down a rung, we keep looking up, knowing that God is with us at all times. And this too, this challenge, this darkness will help us climb even higher. That's the gift of Jacob, that out of the depths, we can reach the highest heights. The deepest challenges of our lives can turn out to be the moments when we experience the deepest truths and acquire our greatest strengths. And that is a life-changing idea we can all use. Wishing you a beautiful Shabbos.